In Silicon Valley, there's been a lot of press about how women are judged to a higher standard and a different standard than men. And we have seen you judged to a higher standard and a different standard than in this election. And one of the big ones is trust. So how are you going to get over that? And what are you going to say to just put this trust issue to rest?
Well, you are absolutely right. You know, when people say this, and obviously I know because I read, you know, the stories about it. And you know, when they say, "Oh, I just, you know, it's just something I don't know. I just don't know if I can trust her." If you ask the second question, why? Nobody has an answer. You know, maybe they'll say Benghazi, and then the answer to that is, well, did you watch 11 hours of testimony? And here's how a good friend of mine the other day described this. She said, you know, she said, when you're teaching your children about multiplying anything by zero, it's a hard concept to get. You say, okay, you multiply 1 by 0, it's 0. You multiply 100 by 0, it's 0. And so people are struggling with that, and then they finally get it and say, oh, it's 0. But if you've heard something 100 times or 1,000 times, even though it's 0, it leaves an impression. And I'm not saying I'm a perfect person. Close, but not there. But I will say this. I've been in the arena, and I've taken on a lot of not only tough issues, going back to healthcare and other things, but also I've been in the midst of this clash of stereotypes, which isn't necessarily played out above the radar, but which is very active below. And I know that every one of these charges and attacks and questions, even though it's 0, it leaves a mark. I mean, behavioral economists will tell you that. And all the work that's ever been done in political campaigns, even if the negative is disproved, there is still this lingering feeling that, well, there must have been something to it. Why would anybody have said that? Or why would somebody be accused of that? There must be something to it. So all I can tell you is that I'm going to continue to do what I have done, which is to, you know, be out there answering questions, putting out what I believe should be done for the country. I ran into this when I ran for the Senate, and you know, why should people in New York trust me and all of that? So I get elected, and then 6 years later I get elected by a larger percentage. And then of course, you know, the campaign, the tough campaign I ran against then Senator Obama, it ends. He trusts me enough to ask me to be Secretary of State. I think it's pretty clear from a lot of what he has said, he would trust me to be president, to be his successor. So the people I work with, the people who know me, they trust me, and they have no trouble saying that. And a lot of the people that I've represented and I've worked for, they count on me. Whenever I'm in a job, this is interesting, because when I was Secretary of State, you never heard that. Right? You never heard that. I had the highest approval ratings of anybody. And then I start to run, and what does that mean? It means that I am really rubbing against a lot of gender stereotypes. I'm rubbing up against a lot of people's anxieties. And, you know, look, I'm also somebody who has made a lot of decisions and been involved in a lot of very difficult situations over the last 25 years. So I think this is not an issue that I can take on directly. I mean, I can't stand up in front of, you know, the entire national press corps and take them on this, because that is just not how they think. And so I have to just prove it day in and day out.
You'll be a great president.
What I do.
Yeah.
That's what I got to do, and I appreciate your asking it, because clearly it's painful. You know, nobody likes to hear that or read that about themselves. But I've gotten to the point where I just sort of, you know, forge ahead. Yes, right there. Yes, sir.
So this actually does continue